What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the vlog. I'm Dookie Betts, and today we've got episode 22. In this episode, we're going to be driving up to the D-Gen Den once again. We're hopping in the mix, playing some $1, $3 blinds, with the occasional $6 straddle on the button. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to quickly make mention of the ClubGG that I've been playing in quite a bit. I'll leave the club ID as well as the referral code right here, so you guys can hop in seamlessly using that code and the referral ID. We've got stakes all the way from 10 cent, 20 cent, all the way up to $5, $10. Plenty of good action in there. Make sure to hop in there, use that referral code, and get your 20% deposit bonus, as well as a $25 deposit match for first-time players. It's a really good promo. It's pretty much free money. So make sure to hop in there, get active on the club, and come play with yours truly. Now that the shameless plug is out of the way, let's hop into the video and let's turn some sand into gold. We buy into the game for $500 at 7:05 p.m. We swing up and down for the first hour in a handful of single raised pots that were rather insignificant. First significant hand of note comes at 7:59 at night, where we pick up ace-10 offsuit on the button. We do have the button straddle out there. Most people in this game are applying some sort of straddle, so we can't be the only one to not be doing that. We're happy to put 6 on the button here, playing in position anyways. Pretty good way to build the game and make it a bit bigger. In this hand, we see the small blind player limp in, and this is followed by an under the gun raise to 25 bucks. The low jack player puts in the call, and we already have 6 in there. We might as well put 25 with a decent looking ace here. Small blind player calls behind, so we're going 4 ways to a flop with about $103 in the middle. We get a pretty decent flop here of ace queen 3 rainbow board. We see the small blind player check it over to the under the gun player, who leads for 20 bucks. Low jack player puts in the call. I'm happy to just call here. Raising doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. We have a top pair holding on a pretty dry board, so happy to just put in $20 more. The small blind player calls behind, so we're still 4 ways to the turn here, and this hand is starting to get pretty dicey. Turn rolls off the 4 of clubs. Seems like a pretty innocuous turn card for the most part. Small blind player checks it over to the under the gun player, who checks behind, and the low jack player now fires out for $65. This player is on the tighter side. I don't really see her bluff all that much, so I'm happy to just call with my top pair holding. Not really feeling too great about this spot thus far. The small blind and the under the gun player fold behind, so we're now heads up to the river. River rolls off the 6 of hearts. The low jack player now checks it over to us, and I really don't think there's any value to be gotten here. We don't really get called by any worse hands, especially when the pot is bloated all the way up to $313. We do have a fair amount of showdown with just ace 10 here, so happy to check this one back, and we lose to ace king here, which is actually sort of a surprise to see this hand, I think. This player out of the low jack decided to just flat with ace king pre, so we were dead the whole way pretty much. We lose 110 bucks on this hand, and this pot does not get pushed our way. For the next hour or so, we just continue to bleed down, losing a few more small pots, losing some blinds, things like that. This next hand, we pick up king queen offsuit in the small blind with the button straddle on. This really isn't that great of a strategy, but I like to just limp from the small blind here. We are 10-handed, so raising from super early position with the button straddle on, just pretty difficult to get one through, if you will. We limp it in, the big blind puts in the call. It ends up folding all the way around to the button player, and he checks his option, so I'm feeling pretty good about our king queen thus far. We get a pretty good flop here of 10-9-6 all hearts. We do have the king of hearts in our hand, so pretty good start for our hand. I'm going to check my option here and just play in flow. Playing 3 ways out of position here, I think it would get pretty tricky to have a balanced donking range here, so we just check it on over. The big blind player checks as well, and it gets over to the button player, who's K-Boule Poker, by the way. I'll leave a link to his channel below. Go check him out. His vlogs are far better than mine. He's got some awesome stuff over there, so leave him some love. Go check his channel out. He comes with a stab here of 15 bucks. We could go both ways here. We could raise, we could call. Certainly can't fold. We decide on just calling here, and the big blind player calls behind, so pretty ideal spot for us. We're now 3 ways to the turn. Turn rolls off the jack of clubs, and we now improve to the nut straight. Obviously a flush still out there, but we have the king high blocker as well, so overall just a really good turn for our hand. We're going to check once again in flow, and the big blind player is now going to come with a lead, which is a pretty interesting play, I think. K-Boule pretty quickly puts in the call on the button, and I just want to start shoveling some money in here. We have the nut straight as well as a king high flush to go with it, so we bump things up to $100 to go. The big blind player thinks about it for a bit and then eventually puts in the call. Kyle gets out of the way, and we're we're now heads up to the river. River rolls off the Jack of Diamonds. Obviously, really not in love with this card. We don't get there with the flush. The board pairs, so we now lose to any boat combos that this player could have. I decide on a check here, and the big blind player now fires out for $100. I think he would probably be going a bit larger with any full house on a board like this. That being said, we have a pretty easy call here. We put in the money, and this player rolls over the exact same hand that we have. We go ahead and chop up the pot here and add a few bucks in profit to our stack. Next fun hand of the night comes about an hour later at 9:43 at night. We're playing a single board PLO bomb pot here. We do have the bomb pot button out on our button, so that's what we called. Everybody's going to throw in $5, and we're going to go 10 ways to a flop here with $50 in the middle. We look down at King 6-7 Deuce, 2 spades, 2 rainbow cards. Really not that good of a hand until we get a flop of Ace Queen 7 all spades. That's right, really good start for our specific holding. It's going to check all the way around to the low jack player, and she's going to stab out for $35. With my hand, it doesn't really make that much sense to raise just because we have the nuts. We'd like to see some other people get involved here. For what it's worth, we also have a 7 in our hand, so that removes some set combos and 2-pair combos that opponents could have. We're just going to put in the call here for $35, and we're going to play this fun game I call Pray That the Board Doesn't Pair. After I put in the call, Elsewhere folds, so we're now going heads up to the turn. Turn rolls off the King of Hearts, doesn't really change anything. We still have the nuts. We now block more combos of sets as well, if that helps at all. The low jack's going to continue to tell the story that she's got a very strong hand here. She bets out for $65, and once again, I could raise, but I kind of want to disguise the strength of my hand once again. This low jack player is pretty savvy, pretty capable, so I don't really want to go raising here, especially with my tight, sort of conserved image. I don't think she's ever really going to pay me off with like a worse flush or something like that. I'm just going to put in the call here and continue to play this slow. We're going to the river with about 250 bucks in the middle. River rolls off the 3 of clubs. Beautiful sight for us. We still have the nuts in our hand. We cannot lose this pot. Beautiful sight. The low jack's gonna barrel for the 3rd street here. She goes $115 into about $250. Really only one move for me to make here. Just put the rest of the money in. That's exactly what we do. We're all in for $218.
Stupid.
Nuts.
I know.
She side calls, we announce that we have the nuts, and we win this $686 pot, adding $363 in profit to our stack. It always feels really good to scoop a large pot like that, especially after you've remained somewhat stagnant for the first 3 hours of the session. About 20 minutes later, we're back in the bomb pot streets. We're playing a PLO double board this time. These ones get quite complicated, quite confusing, and I'm not very good at them, so this is going to be my best attempt at a good hand analysis here. We're playing out of the small blind with Ace-9, 8-4. We got one suit in the form of 8-4, so certainly not that high of a flush draw there. Once again, we're going 10 ways with $5 each, so $50 in the middle, going 10 ways. We get 2 boards here. Top board is Ace-Ace-Jack. We flop trips. Really good start over there. Second board is Queen-Jack 3, rainbow board. Really not a whole lot going on there except a gut shot in the form of 9-8. I'm going to start with a check here, playing out of the small blind. We're pretty much checking our entire range all the time. We're really only making bets unless we're playing from the cutoff or the button. It's going to check all the way around to the middle position player, who pots it for $50. I have 3 of a kind on the top board, little gut shot on the bottom board. I'm happy to put $50 in here when it gets back over to me. Following my call, Elsewhere folds, so we're now going heads up to the turn with about $150 in the middle. We take 2 turn cards here, and I'm in love with both of them. Top board, we get a 4. Bottom board, we get a 10. Really good stuff here. We now have a straight on the bottom board, and we fill up to a full house on the top board. Off the top of my head, I really only think we lose to hands like Ace, King, Jack, X, stuff like that. It's really hard to get scooped here. If he's got a better boat on the top, it's pretty likely that we have the bottom board with our straight, and if he's got a better straight on the bottom board, it's pretty likely that we have the best boat up top. So where I'm going with this, I really don't think we can ever get scooped in this hand, so really good stuff here. I'm going to check once again, just continue to play in flow, continue to play this slow. I sort of have an inkling that my opponent here really likes his hand, so I'm going to let him do the betting for me. We check it on over. The MP player pots it once again for $150. I do some acting, put on a little show here, pretend like I'm thinking about something, and then I eventually repot it all in here for $565 effective. We pretty much get snap called by this player. We're looking at a $1,280 pot here. He rolls over his hand and he's got ace 4-3 deuce. He's got the same hand that we do on the top board, and then on the bottom board we're obviously currently ahead with our straight. He does have an ace high flush draw, but he has one of his own outs. We also contain 2 clubs in our hand, so it's rather unlikely that the flush is coming on the river here. Obviously I'm pretty happy with this spot here. We're pretty much free rolling up top where we're currently chopping, and we're way ahead on the bottom, so getting a lot of money in here, doing pretty well. Really happy with this outcome overall. We get 2 rivers, and on the top board we drill the 8, so we now have an improved boat, aces full of 8s. He's only got aces full of 4s, and we hold on the bottom board, so really good stuff here. We end up scooping this pot. In real time, I'm quite the dumbass, so I didn't realize that the 8 gave me a better hand up top. I was under the assumption that I was getting 3/4 of this pot until someone kindly mentioned, like, hey dude, you actually scooped this whole thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that is true. It's pretty cool. So great outcome here. Really happy. We win this $1,300 pot and add about $650 to the stack. Honestly, hands like this, this is what dreams are made of in PLO double board.
I had like something, but like...
You seem to be making all your money in PLO.
Very wise words from K-Boule Poker here. He's actually right about that. We sat down in this game at about 7 o'clock. It's about 10 o'clock right now. We've played for 3 hours, and we haven't won a single Hold'em hand. We've just won 2 very large bomb pots in PLO, so ideally I'd like to start winning in Hold'em as well. Let's see if we can turn that around. About half an hour goes by and we don't really play anything significant. In this hand we look down at 7-2 offsuit in middle position. For those of you who don't know, there is a $10 bounty on this hand. We are playing 10-handed, so if we can get everybody to release their cards, we win whatever's in the pot, plus $90 on top. Very tempting, super incentivized to get in there, battle it up with 7-2 offsuit, and you know, we're gonna go for it. We're gonna give some action here. I've played in this game for about 2 weeks at this point in time. I've never been dealt 7 deuce, so I'm super excited to see this hand, to be honest with you. We got about $1,100 in the stack here, playing from middle position. We see the +1 player limp in, and I'm going to bump things up to $20 like I would all my strong hands. Following my raise, we see the low jack, the big blind, and the +1 limper call, so we're going 4 ways to a flop here. It's looking like we're really going to have our work cut out for us here when we get a flop of ace-9-6 two-tone board. We see 2 quick checks from the blinds and the +1 player. It gets over to me. I'm going to stab here. I'm going to have plenty of ace-x combos in my range, so I think going for it here is somewhat okay. A lot of these players have capped their ranges, so they really can't have all the nutted hands that you would if you were going to 3-bet. I'm going to bet out here for $30. Following this, we see the low jack and the big blind player put in the call. The +1 player is going to fold, so we managed to eliminate 1 player from this hand, but we're still 3-handed, and this pot is growing quite quickly. Turn rolls off the jack of clubs. The big blind player checks it over to me, and I have a decision to make here. I can either chicken out and be a complete wimp, or I can go for it. I don't think I'll be able to live with myself in the morning if I don't bluff here, so that's what we're gonna do. For what it's worth, I am the youngest player in this game by a decent margin. I've played very tight thus far, so people are giving me a lot of credit when I come with big bets on the turn and the river. We are 3 ways, so this seems pretty crazy, but I really think I can get this one through. If I get called on the turn, I'm certainly gonna have to go for it on the river, but I'm gonna go for it here. The $90 bounty is nice, but it's more about the pride, the respect, the glory of winning with 7 deuce. So we need to get this one through. We need to do it not just for the bounty, but also for our insane ego. When it checks over to me, we decide to bet out for $80, which is about half pot here. The low jack player pretty quickly folds his hand. It's back over to the big blind player. He hits the tank for quite a bit. In my head, I'm just screaming, fold, fold, fold. Please get rid of your hand. Eventually, he releases it. We take down the bounty. We take down the pot. We table 7 deuce, and our pride, our glory, and our respect has been fulfilled. Fast forward to 1:30 in the morning. We're now in seat 3. We got a seat change, more ideal for filming. We've played a couple interesting hands, but I ended up not getting them on camera because I'm an idiot. Sorry about that. We had one bomb pot hand where we ended up losing a fair amount of chips. I think it was like $300. We also got 7-2 through once again, so we picked up another $60 pot plus 90 in bounties. Didn't get either of those hands on film, I'm sorry about that. All in all, we've swung down about $300 from our high point. Really didn't miss all that much, really just the bomb pot and the 7-2 hand, as I just mentioned. In this hand, we pick up ace-7 of diamonds in the low jack. We're playing a naked 1-3 game here. I decided to raise things up to $15 with the pretty looking suited ace. Our friend JQ Poker is sitting in the hijack position to our direct left, and he goes ahead and 3-bets us up to $45. It's going to fold all the way back around to us, and against some players I would absolutely be folding ace-7 suited here to a 3-bet, but against JQ, I think he might be doing this a little bit light against me. He's definitely a balanced player, 3-betting lots of hands, not just the nuts. I'm happy to put in the call here and see what develops. Out of position we go with $94 in the middle, and we get a very spicy flop for our hand. We get ace-jack 7 two-tone board, really good start. We flop 2-pair on an ace-high board. I'm going to check and flow over to JQ Poker, and he's going to continue with the aggression here. He bets $60, about 2/3 pot. Pretty wet connected board. Lots of draws that he could have. We really don't lose to much except aces, jacks, and ace-jack. I'm happy to put more money in here and try and get value from draws, plus hands like ace-king and ace-queen. I check raise on up to 175. He tanks for a bit and eventually puts in the call. So we're going to the turn in a very bloated pot now.
I don't know you, but you're a bitch. I don't know you, but you're a bitch.
As I'm waiting for a turn card to come, I get called a bitch and just spinelessly dap this guy up, so yeah, just me being weak once again. Turn rolls off the queen of diamonds. We now lose to specifically ace-queen, but we're still ahead of all of his flush draws and ace-king as well. Not the best turn card, but also not the worst either. JQ's got about $380 left in his stack here. There's already $440 in the middle. I'm happy to put the rest of the money in here and just see what happens. We go all in for $380 effective. He pretty quickly calls and announces that he has a huge draw. Good to see that we're not stone dead here. He flips over king queen of clubs. We decide to run things twice. Roll the tape.
Jacks, the 2-pair. I have a huge draw.
Right now,
You killed that free? Really? Yeah, twice. Free? Obviously you. Obviously you. Wow. You can't believe you killed that free, really?
It's always very exciting to pull in a massive 4-digit pot like that. It's a little bit bittersweet that it came off of my friend JQ, but such is life. That's the game we play. Final hand of note comes at 3:20 in the morning. It's been a very long session. We've had a long day for sure. In this hand, we look down at 7 deuce under the gun with about $1,600 in the stack. Obviously, we're going to go for the bounty once again here. We raise it on up to $15. We see the +2 call as well as the small blind and the big blind. So we're going 4 ways to a flop here with the special bounty hand. Going 4 ways here, we get a flop of 10-8-3 rainbow board. Obviously not really that good of a flop for our specific hand, but is there ever really a good flop for 7 deuce? We see the small blind and the big blind check it on over to us, and we lead out here for half pot, trying to generate some folds. Following our $30 bet, we see the +2 player call, and both of the blinds fold, so we're now going heads up to the turn. Turn rolls off the 8 of hearts. I don't really know how I feel about this card. I guess it reduces the number of sets that this player could have. However, there's still probably plenty of 8x in this player's range, so overall I'm pretty much indifferent on this turn card. Obviously, with my specific hand, we're incentivized to get in there, try and bluff, and take this down. We go ahead and bet out for $90, going 3/4 pot here, just trying helplessly to get this player to fold. The +2 player now enters the time bank for quite some time. The extremely long tank on the turn makes me want to bluff the river even more. Especially in live poker, people typically have some form of timing tell. Usually a long tank on the turn implies that you have a somewhat marginal hand and a tough decision to make. Of course, if this is a good player we're up against, he's going to be balanced with the amount of time that he takes on each decision. However, I've never played with this player before, and he's relatively new to the table as well. He sat down about 30 minutes ago, so I have no understanding of whether or not he's a good, bad, or somewhere in between player. So that being said, I just sort of assumed this long tank was a sign of weakness. After about 40 45 seconds of deliberation, this player decides to put in the $90, and we're still going heads up to the river here. The river rolls off the 4 of hearts, bringing in the backdoor flush. It's very difficult to put this player on the flush here. I really don't think it's that relevant of a river card whatsoever. We're going to continue with our bluffing here, and the question is, how much should we bet as a bluff? I think the answer to that question is pretty damn large. As played, I don't think this player can have any overpairs whatsoever. Obviously, we're never getting an 8 to fold, so that leaves all of this opponent's 10x hands that he could have, and I think if we go large here, we can fold out some 10x. So that's what we do. We bet $300 targeting all 10x combos here. This player enters the time bank for a very long while once again, and I'm just going to let you guys watch the clip. Roll the tape.
800. Raise the 800.
Well, this didn't work at all.
Oh, damn.
I would have had enough flush.
A for effort, brother.
Yeah, it's worth a try.
A for effort.
Obviously, our bluff didn't work whatsoever here. Unfortunately enough for us, it seemed like he had a very real made hand, so our read was way off. The long tank on the turn was not a sign of weakness at all, and we honestly got wrecked here. Probably just like a dumb bluff anyways. Go roast me in the comments. I'm a huge whale, I guess. Shortly after this hand, we play a few more small pots, end up chipping up a bit, and at 3:37 a.m., we decide to cash out and go home. Alright vlog, we just wrapped up. We were in the game for 500 bucks, out for 1,380 for a net profit of 880 bucks. Played for about 8.5 hours, so certainly going to be a long video for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the hands that we played. I had a great time playing. Great game as always, and I'm exhausted, so really nothing else to say except thank you for watching. If you made it to this point in the video, you're a beast for that. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos on the way. And until next time, guys, Dookie Bets.